All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I am AJ Feldman. He, as always, is Mr. Carl Jones. Carl, the new year is here. 2023 is in the books. 2024 has come in full throttle. How was your new year?
I saw that team up north get a win, so that's never good to see. For those at home, that's Michigan. I'm from Ohio, so if you expecting me to be objective about that or be grateful or happy for them kids, I'm not. I hope they lost. My grandmother could be wearing them colors, and I root for her to fall too. But outside of that, though, it was all good, though, man. It's always a blessing to be here another year. I just hope that next Monday night I'm not as miserable as I was this Monday, seeing Michigan raise the Rose Bowl trophy.
Yeah, Carl Jones, as many people from Ohio, big Washington Huskies fans over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, a great slate of games. Forever how you feel about what the committee did, who they let in, who they let out. We got two good games. We got four good teams out of it. So in some ways, that's all you can hope for. But yeah, the Bills keep on winning 4-0. However, not getting any help. Potentially win or go home on Sunday. Things are really gearing up. But really what everybody's talking about, the return of Roundball Roundup this Friday in 1 day's time. Back on News 8, back running around the city, the surrounding areas, the counties. I'm looking forward to it, Carl.
You ain't the only one. I told you, like we talked about in the last episode. We saw the emails, we saw the Twitter DMs, all that good type of stuff. We got y'all. Don't worry about it. Friday night tomorrow we'll be back and better than ever. Yeah, I can't wait. It's always good to transition from football frenzy to basketball for the simple fact that we're indoors now, right? So like I ain't got to worry about the hand warmers with the double up on the socks with the thicker pants and all that. Like no, obviously gotta have a coat because you run it in between gyms and all that. But for the most part, I'm warm, I'm cozy, and I'm shooting some good hoops.
Exactly. Running between the gyms is the operative words. As many of you guys know, as we mentioned on the show. Generally, we're at a game for about 5 or 10 minutes, unless we're at a good finish. So we're looking forward to it. There's a lot of great games on the schedule. We will get to those in just a little bit in our games to watch segment. However, as we promised you last week on this program, we've got some state hockey rankings to break down. We're now in the third iteration of the New York State Sports Writers Association rankings, where we've got a handful of teams from Section 5 in both the large and the small school rankings. Now, caveat again, as we want to point out, we haven't gotten out to a ton of hockey games this year so far, just with the way the Bills are still going and holidays, etc. But we will be getting out there to more. But time to really dive into these rankings and get a good scope of the Section 5 schedule or the Section 5 slate so far. And we will start with the large school rankings, and we do not have to go far to see our first Section 5 team represented, McQuaid. The Knights, the Jesuit Knights, at 8-2 on the season. They are number 2 on the rankings so far this season. They've got a handful of pretty quality wins. They beat Pittsford 5-2 in their first game of the season. Pittsford, we're going to get to them in just a little bit. They're ranked 8th. They've got 2 wins over St. Francis out of the Buffalo area. Those Frannies are ranked 10th in the state. They got a really quality win on the road, 5-4 in overtime against Orchard Park, who is ranked 4th in the state. And this is the team that brings back a lot of talent from last year. They did lose their starting goalie, Rory Fitzpatrick, but Owen Salinas is doing a really quality job for them in that 6-0 on the season. Top scorer, Jack Callery, a name very familiar to those here around Section 5. 12 goals, 12 assists. They got a nice blue line pairing. Eli Wigand, 3 goals, 10 assists. Connor Emmons, 1 goal, 9 assists, both on the blue line. Seems like they're paired together. And then one person I wanted to really point out, Chase Brock, a newcomer to the slate, just at 14 years old right now, a freshman, getting it done. One of the team's top scorers, 6 goals and 4 assists. Potentially a guy that could terrorize Section 5 for years to come, or someone who, overstays their welcome and heads on to prep school, as many of our very top players have done in the past.
That is always funny because like every time you have like a hockey conversation with like some of the good ones around here, talk to an outsider, like, well, how old is he? Oh, he a freshman. All right, appreciate him while you're here. I'm like, dang, why is that? I'm like, okay, the prep school thing, whatever. Because I'm not too familiar with the hockey space, but I'm familiar enough to know that if they legit at that age, enjoy them while they're here.
Yeah, we always talk. We get these draft prospects that eventually come out of the area, and it's like, he went on to play prep school in Connecticut or whatever. But boy, when he was an 8th grader, boy, when he was a freshman in Section 5, we got to make sure we have some tape on them from when they were a freshman. But yeah, we'll see if he sticks around for too long. But a really great start for him on the season. They do have one loss in Section 5 play this season. That was to Schroeder, a 7-6 game. So not indestructible so far. But McQuaid at number 2 in the state. Pittsford taking number 8 in the rankings, as we previously mentioned, 8-1 on the season. We talked about them a lot last week on our game to watch when they did defeat the Hilton Cadets 3-1. It was a really close game, really tight game. Scoreless first period. Bradley Pollard got the team on the board first for the Panthers with a goal in the second. Hilton tied it with about 5 or 6 minutes to go, and then David Pollard getting the game-winning goal just a few short minutes later. They added an empty netter as well. Bradley Pollard getting 2 on the game. They outshot them 35-18. Wilson Sidlow in net with 17 saves. Once again, their defense doing a pretty good job in net. So, the Pittsford Panthers still going strong with that defense. And we weren't able to go out to this game, but our friends at Primetime 585 were. Karen Iglesia interviewing the top players: Bradley Pollard, David Pollard, Bradley McMahon, and Wilson Sidlow. Let's just give you a little taste of that interview right now.
5 minutes to go, they scored. It's a tie game. Talk to me, what's going on through your mind at this point?
Well, we just had to stay confident. I mean, we knew we had the puck on our sticks and we were missing opportunities and we were just waiting. We just had to get the puck on net and something would happen.
Just keep our game plan from previous games and just buckle up on D and get shots out and bury our opportunities.
Talk about your defense and how they helped you, because they started putting a lot of pressure on you the last 5 minutes of the game.
It's always the defense, just cutting down the angle and then making them so they can't shoot, and then when there's a loose puck, they're always on it hard and getting it out to the wingers to get out.
We just got a lot of good stuff going in the locker room, a lot of good team chemistry, and we're just out there battling for each other every game.
So yeah, the Pittsford Panthers, a force to be reckoned with so far this season. They keep on chugging, and that loss to McQuaid was very early on in the season. In fact, it was their home opener. So Pittsford, a team that is always in the mix, always a tight a great team. They've got Schroeder coming up on Friday. And Carl, this looks like a team that is once again going to be right at the top of these standings.
Yeah, usually when you say a team they have a great defense, they play it slow, not a lot of points or whatever, like that's across all sports. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they have scored the most goals in Section 5 as well. Goals for 52. So it's not like they're just playing it slow, all right, whatever, pack it in. They're dominant on both ends of the ice, which definitely bodes well for sectional time and even further.
Yeah, I will say all of their wins, they do have at least 3 goals on the season, so you're not wrong there. That goal total is inflated by a 15-1 win over Churchville Chili and 11-3 victory over Syracuse City. So, they got some numbers up in those games.
Man, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but let's just say when you get in when that game was on the horizon, make sure that everyone eats. That's what the coaches were saying in that one for sure.
Exactly. I'm sure a lot of the 3rd, 4th line players got very much involved. And then we move down a little bit further in our rankings to Penfield at 6-3 on the season. They are ranked 18th in the state. Top goal scorers, players so far this season. 2 names very familiar to Section 5. They've been here for quite a while. Sean Walsh, 8 goals and 12 assists. And then Bobby Kane, 9 goals, 6 assists. He only had 2 goals in his past 3 seasons on varsity, really stepping up goal scoring as some Penfield Patriots have graduated. He's really picking up the load there a little bit. He had a really nice play. I saw them against Irondequoit. They beat them 4-2. Irondequoit, a much feistier team than they were last year when the Eagles got kind of blown out in just about every game they played. They controlled that game, but, still a 4-2, a nice showing I saw from Penfield. They also got a win over Schroeder 4-2. And their top goalie on the season so far, Thomas Herman, playing every game for them. A 6-3 record with a 2.91 goals against average. And then at number 20 in the state so far, Portside, tied for 20th with a 6-3 record. 2 veterans leading the way for them. Sam Balby, 10 goals, 11 assists. Frank Grad, 6 goals, 9 assists. They got a pair of goalies split in time. They do have a 5-4 win over Fairport, probably their most impressive showing. Portside, Carl, you got to see them a little earlier this season. They suffered a loss to Schroeder, but still, a team that Portside, ever since they've kind of joined forces, Spencerport and Brockport, they've kind of been in this, 500, above 500, feisty range. Perhaps this is the year they can really put things together.
I would definitely say they're better this year for sure. And the one player who stood out when I was there, I think he scored as well, and then he's had a really darn good year, Sal Balby, 5th in Section 5 with 21 points on the year. So that's also a player who's taken his game to another level and helped out Portside reach these heights as well.
Yeah, and Portside is going to find a lot about what their team is made of in about 2 weeks' time. They get Penfield on the 18th. They got Hilton on the 23rd, and then Batavia Notre Dame on January 27th. So that's a really tough slate there. 3 quality teams where they're either to move on up or perhaps slide down these rankings based on their play. So we got 4 teams in the large school rankings, and we have 4 teams in the small school rankings as well. Carl, why don't you introduce us to some of those teams getting praise early on in the season?
Yeah, the top team from Section 5 in the small school rankings is Schroeder, coming in the 3rd spot. 6-2 record on the year. I saw them earlier this year against Portside. That was a dominant victory from them. A couple names that's been in Section 5 for a while now that lead the way for them. TJ Swinson. Matter of fact, Mr. Swinson, I believe, was like the first goal I ever shot here in Section 5. He did some ridiculous stick move, and it tweeted, it got some little traction. I think his mom and someone else, whatever, the whole school district was gassing it up. So that was kind of Mr. Swinson introduced me to Section 5 hockey. So it's good to see that he's still doing good things here. He also has Nick Salito by his side with 9 goals as well. Those two kind of lead the way for the Warriors. And they've also had a pretty good year this year in terms of just taking down who's in front of them. Knocked down McQuaid, the top team in the big school, 7-6 game. I don't know. Were you at that one?
I was not, no.
Yeah, I know, because you're at a high-scoring game, but so it wasn't that one. Also took down Portside, as I alluded to earlier. Beat Thomas, their rivals, who are going to be talking about later. And then also another team who's ranked in Division 2, who are not from Section 5, is Ogdenburg Free. Put it on them as well. So they got some impressive wins so far for a team that in the past, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't had the best success come sectional time.
They won sectionals last year. That was the team that proved us wrong. Remember?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So they building upon that success from last year and parlaying into a really good year this year.
Yeah, perhaps we need to start dogging them, because that was a big motivating factor for some of their players famously last year. The fact that we weren't talking about them. No, Schroeder, they've had a really tough schedule. I mean, I think every single team that I mentioned in the large school division played them so far this season. So they've had their work cut out for them. They've got a really impressive record so far. Clearly one of the top 2 teams in Section 5 in small schools.
And then right behind them is Batavia Notre Dame. We've actually given them a pretty decent amount of love here on News 8. Primetime 505 spotlighted them earlier on in the year after an impressive win they had. And what's cool about them, similar to I think Churchville Charline in previous years, they put up a bunch of goals. They have 5 players in double digits, 3 of them in the top 5 in Section 5 in scoring. Just want to highlight their names really fast. Ivan Malavadov with 28, leading the way. Jameson Matoika with 23. Brady Johnson, 21. And then finishing out that little quintet. Is that 5? I think that's how that goes. Joe DeRiso and then Jake Hutchins. Just if you want to get goals, similar to how Roundball Roundup is, where you're we need a couple baskets and then leave. If you want to do the same thing for Batavia Notre Dame, it's a school to do so, because they put up a ton of them. Riz Tanner, want to give him some love as well. In net, only allowed 14 goals on the year out of the 15 the team has allowed all season long. So he's doing his thing back there as well. They got a schedule coming up, because they haven't really played the toughest schedule to this point, but the rest of this month they're going to really get tested. I know they have Pittsford on there, Canandaigua as well, Schroeder, Portside. So they have some opportunities to really prove that this isn't like a fluke or anything like that, because this isn't really where they've been in previous years. So just want to show them some love, and they are 4th so far in those small school rankings.
Yeah, that's the thing with Batavia Notre Dame in the past. High scoring, a lot of goals, not the strongest of schedules. So it's tough to really figure out where they stack up come playoff time. And then they kind of fall off just a little bit in sectionals. But this team, it really seems like they have a lot of horses this year. And the problem with us getting out to this schedule, they play in Batavia, and 2, 4, 6, 7 of their remaining 11 games are at home. 2 of them are in Glens Falls, and another one's out in Buffalo. So they've got one game that is in Monroe County so far this season, Saturday the 13th against Pittsford at the Iceplex. We'll see if we can get out there. There might be a Bills playoff game going on there. So yeah, Batavia, Notre Dame, they've proven themselves so far this season. You know, good win over Grand Island, Frontier, nice victory, Aquinas, Fairport, some quality teams. We will see what happens later in the season when their schedule continues to beef up. You know, they get Pittsford and they end the season with McQuaid. I think they usually do that. A really nice measuring stick for both of those teams.
Then going back to Webster for our next team from Section 5, who's ranked Thomas, ranked 19th in the state with a 4-4 record. Opposite of Batavia, Notre Dame, where there are a bunch of players who are scoring. Thomas doesn't have anyone in double digits, but they kind of do it by committee a little bit. Ryan Gould and then Trevor Vino kind of lead the way for this team. They've had some measuring sticks against some other teams in Section 5 and haven't necessarily passed those tests so far. They did lose to Hilton. They did fall to Pittsford as well as their rivals in Schroeder. But they do have a 4-1 win over Penfield. So they've shown against some of the better teams that they can raise their level of play against some of those better teams. But it's always cool to see like two schools that are literally neighbors here in the top 20 for the small school division.
Yeah, Thomas, no stranger to elite hockey play, sectional champs in 2019, 2020, 2022. So, you know, that 1 year hiatus is as long as they've gone in recent memories. So Thomas eager to get back on top, raise that sectional break, especially when they had to see Schroeder win it last year. And, you know, Schroeder Thomas is always a fun game. I'm sure. I believe they play later on in the season. When do they play? Actually, they don't. They've played all their Thomas Schroeder games so far this year. They've only got one this year. Come on, guys. They only got one game. Schroeder won that 4-1. Let's get another rivalry matchup in there. Maybe they'll meet in sectionals.
I like where your head is at. Finishing off our small school rankings, Canandaigua in the 20 spot, 6-2 record on the year. They do have an impressive win over Portside. Took them down 3-2 earlier in December. A couple guys we need to highlight for them. Maddox Smith leading the way with 8 goals, 8 assists. Josh Barnes right behind them with 7 and 7. Then DJ Spachalski, I feel like he's been around in Section 5 since I've been here too. So, man, how old is this dude? How long? Because he's been here for as long. Sheesh, back to 20. He was here in the COVID year. Okay, my man got to be a senior or something.
Yeah,
shout out to him, though.
Those are our 4th year seniors there.
And then Brody Spinoza also in double digit scoring as well for Canandaigua. Another team that we really don't get to watch too often because obviously Canandaigua is not close to the station, but they will have some opportunities coming up where they do play Pittsford at Blue Cross next Tuesday. That might be a me thing. So that might be a game that we go check.
Kind of just for Carl just figured out his schedule for next week.
Right, I figured out my schedule for next week. But regardless, Canandaigua rounding out the small school rankings at 6-2 at number 20.
Yeah, they had a fun little playoff run last year. They beat Thomas 5-3, and then I believe I saw them in their loss to Churchville Chili 5-2. That really talented Churchville Chili team. So Canandaigua looking to get back on top. Not a team with quite as much hockey history as some of the others in our area, but certainly the Gray Wolves looking to ring in 2024 with a successful season. So as we mentioned before on this show, Roundball Roundup back on your airwaves Friday night. As always, 11 o'clock, we end the show with a full slate of hockey action plus our traditional sports content. A lot of great games this week. Kind of an interesting schedule. We've got some girls games early. Usually it's a lot of city boys games we get out to at like 5:30, but Schroeder's hosting a boys-girls doubleheader, so we'll be getting out to Schroeder early. But there are plenty of games to watch. Carl, why don't you give me one that you've got your eyes on for this upcoming Friday Roundball Roundup?
Yeah, some state representatives from last year. Victor going at Irondequoit this year. Victor obviously won Class AA crown last year. Irondequoit was the runner-up in Class A. Now, preface it, Irondequoit lost a lot of talent off of last year's team. They're still good this year, shown by their 5-3 record, but they're not quite the powerhouse that they were last year. And then also Victor, they actually just fell to Fairport last night on the road, I believe. But they're 4-2 to this point this year. Fairport is actually a pretty good team that we'll definitely have our eye on going forward. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to hype that up or jazz it up any further than that. You got 2 prideful schools coming up with a really successful year last year. Like I said before with Victor, Garrett Clare, and what's my boy name? Griffin Hopkins. They tough. I saw they took their game to another level. I saw one of them take like a pull-up 3 with like 30 seconds left on the shot clock yesterday. So clearly they're really feeling themselves this year. I can't wait for that one. So yeah, Victor at Irondequoit, for my game of the week.
Yeah, Victor is going to be hungry after that loss to Fairport. I think Aiden White I saw had 36 in that game. So really impressive effort by the Red Raider there. All right, I got my eyes on a city school matchup that should be a great one. A little inter-class showdown. You've got Franklin in Class AAA taking on East in Class A. Should be a really good battle, an interesting battle, as we kind of always say in this one. Styles make fights. You've got Franklin, obviously led by Terrence Thompson, who is putting up 20-20s just about every game. In his last outing against Jamestown, the last time Franklin was in action, they did lose that game, but Mr. Thompson, 32 points, 25 rebounds, 5 blocks in that game. So the thing with this is East, they have a lot of talented players. Micah Johnson, Zion Parson, Zymir Jackson. They're really guard heavy. They've always kind of been a guard heavy team. So how do they approach it? How do they defend him? Do they try and do a little maybe box and one on him? How do you kind of muscle him down low? And 2, East, they have some shooters. They're a very talented team. They can shoot the ball. Not particularly known for their shooting. East, like many teams, much more effective when they're driving to the hoop, making things happen. Do they go at him, try and risk some blocks and maybe try and get him in foul trouble? Or do dish and dive, kick it out? Do they turn a little more passive, try and shoot their way out of this one? So that's going to be a really interesting matchup to see how East deals with Mr. Terrence Thompson.
Yeah, I can't recall what game exactly it was last year, but that was a game plan one of the city schools had with him where they just said, you know what, we're going to go at him every play and hopefully he gets in foul trouble, and he did. So maybe this year he's much more disciplined on the defensive end and he's not racking up as many fouls. But that was a game plan that was executed by, I think it was Edison Tech, maybe he was in some foul trouble and they ended up falling in that game. So I would not be surprised if East tried a similar attack.
Yeah, especially, high school game, of course. You only get the 5 fouls. Those can add up real quick. You get 2 quick ones. Coach Scalalancy takes them out. Who knows what's going to happen. So that should be a great slate of games for Roundball Roundup. A handful of quality girls games as well. Hilton versus Penfield, one that really stands out. That'll be at Penfield. See if the Patriots can get on track. Hilton, doing some great things as we mentioned on last week's show. But that'll do it for our show today on the High School Huddle. Thank you for joining us. We will be back in action next week. Things are starting to get a little crazy. Or, the Bills could lose and we're done. We start diving into high school and we get no more excuses as to why we haven't gone out to any hockey games. But that'll be a case for next week. We'll see what happens on Sunday. We'll see what happens Friday Roundball Roundup. Once again, you can watch us Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RochesterFirst.com, and YouTube. Thanks for watching, listening, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff. For Mr. Carl Jones, I am AJ Feldman. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you next time.